I was not going to say anything, but it's getting out of control. These guys need some therapy. Should we draw a line somewhere? Is there a line that needs to be drawn when it comes to battle rap? How personal does it get? Hey everybody, welcome. It's Rosalie Elliott. We're all about world music and psychology, and America happens to be on planet Earth, and there's some serious beef happening in the hip hop and rap industry.
Hot on spicy meat. Yeah, boy.
I wasn't gonna say anything because you've got the guys, you've got Knox Hill, we got Black Pegasus, we got No Life Shack, you got DJ Ghost, we got all these guys who are phenomenal at dissecting all these different rap songs and the things that Drake and Kendrick have been putting out, and the battle and the history and the double entendres and the literary art. Y'all know my favorite word. And so I was thinking I'm not going to dive into it because, you've probably heard it all. I'm still dipping my toe into that whole world, slowly but surely falling in love with rap and hip hop, finding the art in some of it. And there's just things that I'm not cool with, but I'm learning as I go. But here's the thing, you guys. This is getting out of control.
Sometimes our parents make mistakes that affect us until we grown. Hey, you're a good kid that need good leadership. Let me be your mentor. Never let a man piss on your leg, son. Sometimes you gotta pop out and show niggas. Certified boogeyman, I'm the one that up to score with them.
We know that this whole beef between Drake and Kendrick Lamar, initially J. Cole, and then he backed out gracefully / not so gracefully, has history. This is not new. It's recently, in the last, last few weeks, it's been exploding. But it's not new. They've been going at it. And quite frankly, when it comes to the music industry and rivalry, we see that. We know that. I mean, even just looking at a completely different music genre, aka pop, just look at Britney Spears and Christina Aguilera and that whole beef. I feel like some of that was instigated by the music industry, right? Some of it is instigated and fueled by the fans, and it makes money, okay? Where there is attention, where there's views, there's money. And so when this whole thing started, I was listening to some of it with my husband. He was explaining some things, and it's quite fascinating. But I thought some of this may just be for views, right? It's a trend. It gets people's attentions. That's where the clicks are. That's where the money is. But it's getting ugly. So the most recent attacks in these tracks have been quite personal. I mean, talking about a secret child to pedophilia to really getting ugly in some of these lyrics. And it makes me think there's need for therapy. But the thing is that obviously I can't do therapy with these guys because they're not here. And second of all, they might not be interested. Lastly, where's the fun, right? A lot of viewers, they, even if they could, wouldn't want to mediate and be a therapist for these two guys and all their stuff because it's fun. People love this type of stuff. It's kind of a similar mindset, in my opinion, to the gladiator days when people were watching other people rip each other's throat out. There's something there, and we'll talk about all that in just a second. Let's look at the history for a moment. So the whole thing with Drake is that it started, Drake and Kendrick, is that it started with Drake's song, First Person Shooter. And that was released as part of his album, For All the Dogs. That was last October. And that's where J. Cole referred to himself, Drake, and Kendrick as the Big Three. To me, that sounded like a compliment, right? They're the GOATs, the Big Three. And so when Lamar was featured on Future's track called Like That in March, he ripped into Cole and Drake, saying something about, what was it? There ain't no Big Three, it's just Big Me. And that kind of was the catalyst for the drama. And this now just has been increasing back and forth to the point that my guys are tired. I mean, Knox Hill's talking about he's done. I think No Life Shack has been talking about just being done. And it's just been ping-ponging back and forth. And the viewers, the audience, the fans, they have been hungry for more whenever a new backlash or whatever you want to call it dropped. The backstory is that Drake and Kendrick both achieved great fame. What was it? Early 2010s, supposedly. They've worked together on Drake's 2011 album. Lamar's featured on the interlude, and Lamar had Drake on his second studio album, so they've worked together. According to Time.com, first trouble cropped up around 2013 when Lamar appeared on the song Control and called Drake out and other rappers, but Drake didn't engage. I guess there was no shots fired back at the time. There was some talk about a secret baby. Drake later admitted this was true. I don't know. Is this regarding does he have a son, right? Educate me, help me. I'm trying to understand. Then, first person shooter came around. Drake reopened conflict with Lamar, intentional or not. Cole referred to himself, like I said, and the two as the big three. Kendrick responds to that in his song, in his verse on the song Like That. And Lamar, interesting fact, won the Pulitzer Prize in, what did I read? 2018. Pulitzer Prize is one of the biggest awards you can get when it comes to journalism and music. Very fascinating to me. Interesting that it was founded by someone who has like, experience in news and journalism, and now it's, also given out for musical compositions and work. But Lamar has been awarded that. We know that Drake is a GOAT in his own right. You may disagree or agree with that, but he stays relevant. Something that my husband pointed out to me is something that we can see is that over the years he has stayed relevant. Even if he taps into a little bit of those hints of mumble rap and whatnot, his beats, his tracks are catchy. He's touched in various genres, and I think that's one of the reasons he stayed relevant. Well, then J. Cole enters the beef with 7-Minute Drill. Kendrick gets back at Drake, also some more talking about, referring to his album, saying, for all the dogs rapping, for all your dogs getting buried, that's a K with all the nines, right? Dogs, K9s. Drake in his video had these dogs all around him in the elevator, listing all a bunch of female names. Okay, so this beef starts, and these little nods, and so if you've been listening to the track, you're picking up on it. If you've been following these two, you can probably hear even more references that go even further back in time. Well, then J. Cole steps in and he puts out his 7-Minute Drill, where he is coming after Kendrick. And it was, I guess, a surprise album called Might Delete Later, if I heard that correct. And that's funny because he ended up deleting his comments in the sense that he apologized, which a lot of people found odd and weird and what is happening because people were enjoying it. And let's talk about that for just a second. Why do people enjoy this? I was referring to the Gladiator games earlier. I think that there's something about watching people fight that gets us excited, especially people that seek out adrenaline or that are not afraid of certain conflict. They get excited by this, right? But this goes for introverts, extroverts, various personality types. People seem to love what is exciting. You might see people fighting on the streets. We see it in movies and in real life where some of us watching may go, do something. But somehow these kids, teenagers, adults make a circle around the two people fighting to record and watch. Some people are busier capturing it and watching and commentating than intervening. And that may be because they're afraid to get involved. They don't want to get hit too. Maybe they are excited because they were hoping this fight happens. You see it in movies, right? The whole Twilight era where people were taking sides. I'm Team Frizzle, I'm Team Shizzle, whatever. Right? You got people like in other music genres where there's competition and you're comparing. We somehow do that. We compare, we contrast, we want to take sides. And somehow, and we'll go into that a little bit deeper later, it really touches on our identity, right? We make meaning of life and the things that shape us. We've listened to all our lives, the things we grew up with. That's who we are. So if you're attacking my artist, then you're attacking me. Somehow that's what is perceived. And when it comes to conflict, there's that adrenaline rush. The hypothalamus in our brain triggers hormones that then in turn trigger the pituitary gland. Now hormones are being released. Now the adrenal medulla on our kidneys is informed and triggered to release adrenaline. And adrenaline is what we produce in response to stress. Conflict causes stress. Okay, so biologically, there's a complete, clear explanation as to what happens in our brain and the rest of our body, why this adrenaline now increases blood flow and oxygen oxygen flowing, heart rate rising, right? All these things that are happening that are exciting. Those adrenaline kicks that we look for can be addictive, so we keep coming back for more, right? There's something about conflict and taking a side that ties into our biology and our chemistry, like I just explained, and that ties into our psychology, our identity, who I am, the things I love and I listen to shape who I am. And so you're coming after my artist, you're coming after me. There's a whole host here of things, but people are loving it. Reactors are soaking it up. And so we've got these guys going back at it, beefing left and right, and throwing shade at each other and these little hints and nods. And some of it may be fairly self-explanatory, right? Like that example with the dogs and the K9, if you've seen Drake and J. Cole's video. But then some of the references may be more hidden, double entendres, wordplays, alliterations. But I think that a lot of people who have been listening to them for a long time, who have this love and appreciation for these artists and their work, maybe even more excited because there's references where if you know their full discography and work, and if you've been around for years, you may pick up on things even more. And that's exciting. That's fun. Because I feel like there's an element of nostalgia too. Okay, so then J. Cole comes after him with his Might Delete Later, right? 7-minute drill talks about your ish was classic. Your first ish was classic. Your last ish was tragic. Your second ish put N-word to sleep, but they gassed it. Your third ish was massive, and that was your prime. And so many listeners supposedly took issue to J. Cole's comment. They suggested that the album, Lamar's album, To Pimp a Butterfly, very random title, by the way, don't know much about it. See, I'm still learning this. The people were saying that that was some of his best work. And so they didn't like J. Cole's comments here. J. Cole's talking about how people don't care about Lamar rapping, that he's average, that he's average, that if he wasn't dissing someone, we wouldn't be talking about him. Okay, so the heat was picking up at this point. Heat was picking up, things were getting a little tense. And then J. Cole decided to distance himself. Apologizes, interestingly enough. This is called May Delete Later, right? And he even expressed that the song, quote, didn't sit right with his spirit. And opinions here vary too, right? I mean, when my husband and I were talking about this, my husband thought this is weak. Like, what the heck? If you're going to battle and you're going to play this out, then don't back out. That looks weak. My thought was the only reason why I could make sense of this is if he genuinely in his heart, because of faith, maybe religion, in his spirit, felt like God was telling him this is not cool. And if that's the case, I can respect it because he was true to himself. He was true to what he felt in his heart. And I'm not going to throw shade on that, because if you're famous and you can lose a lot of street cred or be ridiculed, but you still choose to do what's right in your heart, it takes courage, okay? If that was the reason. If it was because of fear of cancellation, then I would be like, nah, bro, don't do that. But I don't know enough about it, okay? I'm still learning. Either way, he apologizes and supposedly says something about his actions have been some of the lamest, goofiest ish that he's participated in. So he backs out and he's kind of out of the picture in my mind. All right. Then Drake and Lamar keep going back at it, talking about you need to do some push-ups. And so the heat was intensifying, the excitement, right? What's happening here? Fans are holding their breath, waiting for Drake to respond. And Drake responds with 2 songs, Push-Ups and Tailor-Made Freestyle. And so that was released on April 19th, okay? So fairly recently. And he was trying to put Lamar in his place, calling him a pipsqueak, rapping how the F you be stepping with a size 7. That part I thought was kind of funny. You're stepping with a size 7, as in, basically talking about him having small feet, even though that maybe might be a double entendre also to other small body parts. I don't know. And he's talking about how Kendrick Lamar is doing features on pop songs, so trying to ridicule him, maybe take away a little bit of his hip hop rap street cred. Maroon 5 needs a verse, you better make it witty. Then we need a verse for the Swifties, talking about Taylor Swift's fans, okay? And he made references, I think, to Taylor Swift's song Bad Blood and Don't Wanna Know, I think. But Drake didn't only call out Kendrick Lamar, he also dissed Future, The Weeknd, Rick Ross, Jay Morant, Metro Boomin, and Cole. Even dissed Cole, okay? So Drake kind of like done with everybody. Following push-ups, Drake released the track Tailor-Made Freestyle, but it's now been deleted, that Instagram post. He posted it and I guess captioned it, "While we wait on you," I guess. But, and in that song, Drake alleged that Lamar didn't release a response yet because Taylor Swift had just put out her album. So you see how this is now going beyond the hip hop and rap industry. We're tapping out into Taylor Swift's stuff and into different people. Drake's going after everybody. And I think that added to this thing becoming way bigger than just a little beef between hip hop artists. Because again, y'all, this is not new, okay? There was beef between Tupac and Biggie Smalls. I mentioned Christina and Britney earlier, and the list goes on in every music genre, in the movie industry, right? There's this desire for us somehow the way we've evolved and the way we're just so tribal, we just always tend to feel like we need to take a side, right? You see it in the comment section. People love it, people hate it. I'm going to probably get you talk too much. Okay, so people do that. Well, over here, we're seeing that too. People taking sides and it going way beyond and being really big. Okay, and then, not going to go into all of that. Now, that track, however, the Taylor track, was short-lived, and this was interesting to me. because Drake was served a cease and desist letter from Tupac Shakur's estate for using AI-generated vocals. So in that track, Drake used AI-generated vocals from rap legend Tupac, who died back in '96, and he was forced to remove tailor-made freestyle from all public platforms. The song also featured AI vocals from Snoop Dogg, and he joked about it on Instagram, supposedly. Okay? We're just summarizing right now. This is what's been happening. Then Lamar responded with Euphoria, April 30th, and that was full of deep cuts and double entendres. And the title seemed to refer to the show, the HBO show, which Drake is an executive producer of. And it starts with a sample of Richard Pryor from The Wiz saying, "Everything they say about me is true. I'm a phony." Okay, so throwing insults here and trying to be slick both with title and what he's saying. Then he starts shooting off diss after diss, saying things like fabricating stories of the family front because you heard Mr. Morale, a pathetic master manipulator. I can smell the tails on you now. Okay, cool rhyme scheme, but definitely coming in strong. And they are getting more and more aggressive, and they're getting more and more personal. And of course, the fans are eating it up like rice. We're not going to go into all of it because y'all can listen to all the guys that went into all these different word plays. I'm just summarizing for y'all so we can talk about the psychology. He goes on to call himself the biggest hater before unleashing a tirade on the song. "I hate the way you walk. I hate the way you talk. I hate the way you dress." And the funny thing is, y'all, this actually, hold on. No. That's Kendrick, okay? So Kendrick's shooting these shots, talking about Drake's biracial identity, going after the race now, the identity. And see, this is what's interesting psychologically. When you start attacking someone's heritage, be it skin color, be it origin, nationality, things get personal because that's part of how we form our identity. In America, it seems to be a big topic, right? The black and white, and who are you really? And are you black enough? Are you white enough? Okay, so things are getting personal. And I could see the fans taking this and now going beyond, "Oh, snap, he said this about my favorite artist," to now make it personal, right? All the people that identify with Drake to a degree because they may feel like they can relate to him, not just because of his music or they grow up with it or they just love it, but because they look like him or they identify with his story or his biracial roots. Okay, so we take things, we watch it and we go, conscious or subconsciously, and we may take it personal. And now, not only are Drake and Kendrick going after each other, it's the fans. It's interesting. I mean, to me, psychologically and whatnot. Calls himself the biggest hater and then goes on this whole spiel. "I hate the way you walk, the way you talk." And even just reading that, I thought, that sounds like a pop song, actually. Sounds like two girls just going at it. All right. And then he talks about, "We hate the snitches you F because they confuse themselves with real women." Okay, so it's getting more and more violent or intense. Then we got 616 in LA and multiple meanings in that title. He dropped a second song, Lamar did, the same week that he dropped Euphoria. And there may be different meanings, they say, behind that, kind of cryptic. Could be the cover art features a single black glove, maybe a nod to O.J. Simpson's trial, maybe a nod to Tupac's birthday because it was released on June 6th. O.J. Simpson's trial on June 16th. Also happens to be Tupac's birthday. Also happens to be Father's Day this year. It's also the day that the television show Euphoria dropped its first episode. Could be a dig. It could be a little nod or dig at Drake's taste in women. Because of the scripture that we find in Corinthians 6:16 that says, "Do you not know that he who unites himself with a prostitute is one with her in body?" It said the two will become one flesh. So he could be trying to throw all shades at Drake in just one title. One of the most interesting parts of that song, supposedly, is including Jack Antonoff on the producer's credits, because the Bleachers frontman is known for working closely with Taylor Swift and wasn't seen in that whole rap feud prior. And so now Lamar's digging further into Drake, suggesting that Drake may have moles on his team that are feeding him information. Oh, my goodness, this is exhausting. I'm summarizing because we need therapy, guys. Family Matters comes out next. Drake responds with Family Matter, questioning the true father of Lamar's child with his fiancée Whitney Alford, alleging that Lamar is unfaithful, maybe physically abusive. So we're getting really personal. We're getting personal because he's bringing in the family talking about hitting vanilla cream to help with your self-esteem. So, right, talking about not being faithful, maybe hitting, the Caucasian ladies is how I'm taking that when it comes to the vanilla cream reference. And Lamar then responds with what is it? Lamar didn't directly address the claims, but he responded with Meet the Grahams. And he said in that song, this is supposed to be a good exhibition within the game. But you effed up the moment you called out my family's name. And that lyric is interesting to me because at that point, to me, it sounds like Kendrick Lamar is saying, this was supposed to be a good game. We're supposed to be putting on a good exhibition of what real battle rap looks like, right? Honestly, to me, that implies there's still a level of hope here, okay? We're getting ugly, we're getting intense, we're getting hostile, there's a lot of shots fired, but this is supposed to be a good exhibition of the game. You're now getting personal. You're pulling my family into this. And I gotta say, I gotta ask, is there some validity to that? What do you think? Should we draw a line somewhere? Is there a line that needs to be drawn when it comes to battle rap? How personal does it get? Those same questions we can look at when we talk about art. Is everything on the table when we talk about art? I would beg no, right? When there's things involved that are immoral, right? Like causing someone horrible harm when it's not consensual, when the abuse of children is involved, right? How could that still be deemed art, right? Where do we draw the line? And that is these philosophical questions of evil and good, right and wrong, of what is reality, what is truth. Those questions are as old as time. And those same philosophical questions can be asked with battle rap. Is there a line that should not be crossed? You tell me in the comments. Let's talk about it. And this is why I think maybe it's time for some family therapy up in here. These brothers need to come together at the table. We got to have some mediation because this is getting out of hand. Later in that verse, Drake then specifically names Dave Free, a record executive who works as Lamar's manager, saying, I heard that one of them little kids might be Dave Free. And Drake also called Lamar in his body of work, which often talks about racism. He calls it inauthentic, saying, always rapping like you about to get the slaves freed. You acting like an activist is make-believe. All right, so yeah, talking about criticizing each other's work, each other's family. And then Lamar responds with Meet the Grahams, which is funny to me because we're talking about family matters. Now we're talking about Meet the Grahams. To me, it would imply a family name, right? We're meeting the family now. Less than an hour after Family Matters was released, Lamar put out Meet the Grahams. And the track is arguably, according to time.com, it's time.com, right? According to time.com, that track may arguably be the most aggressive of the songs that's been released in the past few months. It starts with Lamar apologizing to Drake's son for having him as a father. Lamar then goes on to claim without evidence that Drake takes Ozempic, is that how I say it? Is that right? And used photos of medication with Drake's legal name on it in that video. He alludes to gossip that Drake has had a Brazilian butt lift. That's why sometimes he's referred to as BBL Drizzy. And even mentions that Drake hid his son away from the public eye. So they're getting really personal. And in a therapy session, you tell me, what would you do in this type of situation, right? How long do we let them talk it out and spew out all their accusations and all their grievances with each other till somebody steps in? In the second verse, Lamar makes severe implications about Drake by comparing him to Hollywood sex offender Weinstein, and talking about how they should get effed up in a cell for the rest of their life. So now talking about him being a pedophile, and then dedicates the third verse to Drake's daughter, claiming that Drake is not active in her life, calling him a narcissist, a misogynist. Okay, so they're bringing psychology up in here. They're bringing all those diagnoses up in here, completely just pulling their families through the name, their work and accomplishments, their identities. Now we're going after families and legitimacy. It's getting ugly. And then he doubled down with his allegations against Drake, releasing another track, 4.5 minute long track, Saturday evening. And it's allegedly a photo of Drake's mansion with red marks on it that are often used to mark sex offender homes. And then talking about Drake is not a colleague but a colonizer. This is exhausting, y'all. And that's me speaking as Rosalie, not as the therapist. Lamar called out Drake for using Tupac's AI voice. And then what else? What else we got? What else? And Drake calls his beef a good exercise and laughed it off, suggesting that Kendrick would be a worthy competitor if he was really a predator. Okay, so if you weren't prey, you weren't being eaten up, if you were actually a predator, you'd be a good competitor. Drake mentions Millie Bobby Brown, who I believe he is friends with and who people have been criticizing him about, right? His friendship with Millie Bobby Brown because she's so young. Okay, the conclusion on Time.com was it seems like there's no end. What do you think? I was looking at a clip by No Life Shaq, and he thinks that maybe this is the end now that they're releasing copyright claims. Check out my video about that. That's big news in the reacting community. I think the music industry is starting to pick up on what's going on, but we'll talk about that in that video. The amazing thing to me is, the crazy thing to me, for one, this ain't new. Beef in the music industry, beef in any industry isn't new. The fact that we take sides as people groups is also not new, right? It's this tribal thing ingrained in us that we think we got to take a side. We see it in politics and religion. We see it in music and movies. We take sides. We are team hashtag whatever. And I think the two main things that came to my mind is if we look at it biologically and chemically, we see that our brain releases these hormones when we're faced with stress. When we see conflict, we see tension, we see someone attacking us or our favorite artist, which directly ties into our identity. It's exciting, it's addictive, right? It feels good. We feel alert and alive until we find a way to calm down. Okay, it feels like a threat. We go into fight or flight. There's a biological explanation for why conflict triggers us. When it comes to psychology, I think it's interesting because the things we listen to, music being one of the most universal languages, if not the most universal language, right? The things we listen to directly impact how we develop from childhood to our adolescence to adulthood. We can communicate how we feel. We identify with artists. Even though I didn't grow up listening to Drake or Kendrick, and I'm still learning the whole world of rap, I grew up listening to some of this. The stuff I was jamming out to was Missy Elliott, Timbaland, Magoo, Eminem. And for me, I didn't appreciate the art of rap until even recently. I mean, there was some things that I thought were cool, but for me, it was mostly the melody and the beat. I would dance to it. I would have fun with it. That's what hooked me. But the way that I connected with music was from a place of, I feel good. I feel cool. I'm having fun. I'm dancing. I'm releasing that stress. This feels good physically, right? We know physical exercise is good for stress relief. I'm dealing with my trauma through movement. So I'm having this direct connection to good music. Now you add music that impacted me in a profound and personal way. Someone like a Christian artist named Rebecca St. James, okay? I'm intrigued by the new movie I haven't seen yet because I grew up with her music and I listened to her music in some of the darkest times of my life. So if I were to see her release new music or now the new movie out about her life and her family, I'm intrigued by that because it directly ties into who I am. I listened to Alicia Keys growing up, Whitney Houston, so pondering the fact that Whitney is no longer here and watching Alicia do her thing and trying to imitate some of the runs, that ties into years of my life, of who I am, what shaped me, the music I listen to, okay? So the same goes for people that listen to Kendrick and to Drake. It's not just, whatever, fad. What is the word? Fad. Don't judge me if I make mistakes with English, by the way. That's not my first language, and I'm speak more than one language, so I'm allowed to. Okay, so that directly ties into people's identity. So it makes sense that people are hyped by this. This is beyond just two rappers going at it. And at first, I thought it was just good literary art. They're just battling, and some of it might be that. Some of it really might be hype and attention. And these guys are huge on the map. They were already huge. They really didn't need extra attention. But if they weren't already ginormous artists at this point, they definitely are now. And reactors add to that, bringing their music to a whole new target audience, people that would usually never listen to them or never dove into them the way that they do now. And that, again, gives new ideas for creativity, right? When you have somebody writing you a song or dissing you and coming after you in a certain way, that gives you new ideas for new tracks, which means more views, more money, okay? So it's this whole cycle. But it directly ties into our sense of identity in person when someone comes after what we love and our favorite artist is attacked or our favorite artist goes after somebody else. And then you find yourself in a dilemma like a child with parents going through divorce if you love both artists and you don't want to pick a side. If you're in that situation, I'd like to know how you handle this. Have you taken a side? Have you changed your mind about one of the other artists? Who has been your pick if you had to, okay? Who do you agree with? Do you think they're both wrong? Do you think they're both right? Has this gone too far? Would you say that this needs to stop and we need some therapy here and now, okay? If these guys were in the room with me, Okay, we put on the boxing gloves. No, I think we got to take them off. I think the boxing gloves have been on for a minute, and now it's time to talk about what's happening. Why do you feel this way? What is really going on? You talk to me in the comment section. What does all of this mean? What is this? What does all of this mean to you? Do you feel like a child of divorce? If you love both of them, are you cool with picking a side? Do you think it's gone on too far? Is there a line that shouldn't be crossed when it comes to battle rap? Help me learn. And yeah, as you go through this process, regardless if we're done or not, don't forget to breathe, to get that adrenaline down once in a while, that cortisol, and yeah, remember who you are. To where you can take the good, throw away the bad, and yeah, not lose your peace. But yeah, well, I'll see you on the next ride. Bye.